are all of y'all on my email list? I send out an email newsletter every Friday. Let me give you my cards and sign up on the website. And I hope y'all are aware that I did a bill.
Yes.
Ted Cruz and I did a bill. Or did y'all see that one?
Yeah, I did. And
To secure the border.
right. And I do appreciate that bill. My question is this. Obama, over a year ago, basically made whole categories of illegals hands off and allowed them to come through. So
Right.
I don't know why they...
He did it by executive order.
Right, yeah, but immediately, the GOP House should have at least gotten through the bill then to defund and or... I don't know what this guy has to do to get
We
it
did.
passed.
We voted it in. Steve King had the amendment.
Okay, immediately after.
And yes, we voted it in the budget process. And that went through the House. And then it defunded the DACA program. But of course, the Senate doesn't take the bill live.
I understand, and
So,
I understand we have a
yeah.
problem with the Senate, but I mean, you know,
But
just like...
we did it in the House, and then we just passed the standalone bill
Right.
that would have frozen the DACA program and would have frozen the president's ability to do amnesty and work permits.
Right.
So that was kind of our second bite of the apple.
But you know, there wasn't a whole, I haven't heard a whole lot of publicity. I heard more about this one than I heard about the first one. So they're not good at, and they do have at least some friendly press. They can at least go on Fox. I didn't even see them on Fox immediately after. I hear them complaining. I hear all this talk about lawlessness. Well, the remedy for lawlessness is impeachment. And I understand, you know, that Harry Reid is not likely to vote for impeachment, but number one, it's the right thing for the House to do. Number two, if it passes the House with 218 votes, Harry Reid doesn't get to take it to a committee. There's a panel set up, the Chief Justice presides. You only need 21 Democrat senators to say yes. I don't know if we have 21 Democrat senators that care enough about their country to vote to remove him or not, but I think the House should do it. And it really irritates me that the House seems to be more concerned about, well, we don't want to rouse up their base. They don't want to do what they're supposed to do because they're worried about rousing up the base of their opponent. You got to do what's right. And to me, it's insane that we not only, and I've never heard anybody, I've never heard you or anybody from Tennessee, and I'm not saying you haven't said it, but I've never heard any complaints about all these known Muslim Brotherhood operatives that are in the DHS. They remove anything and everything from military manuals and from the federal law enforcement manuals, any references to Islam or radicalism. And I can tell you that on Fort Campbell, you don't hear anything about it. We've been fighting these guys for 12 years and we can't even name the enemy. Matter of fact, we promote them and put them in power. And you're not going to win. We're not going to win like this. And if somebody gets across the border and does something, in my opinion, the GOP House has just as much blame as the president because they allowed it to happen. They did not use every tool in their bag to try and stop this guy.
Well, you know, with the border situation, we have, what we have done is to repeatedly, yeah, you're good, repeatedly go after the funding mechanisms when it comes to the immigration issue, the illegal entry, the bills, the last bills before we left, 2 pieces of legislation. And one of them is, what it will do is to put the money in place. It reprograms money. It's not new money. And I think that that's one of the important things to look at. It's reprogrammed money coming out of the DHS budget and the foreign affairs budget, and putting that into paying the National Guard to be on the border. You know, we have apprehended people from about 80 different countries.
We know it.
That's my concern.
We're all concerned about that.
Yeah, and you don't know where those cells are, what's, you know, what kind of damage they may do. You know, you've got cartels that are working in sex trafficking, human trafficking, drug trafficking.
That's why we're concerned.
Yeah, and so all of that is something that we are focused on. We talk about it, you know, the major media never does anything to report on it. We realize that.
Well,
but,
you've got an outlet through Fox, and you've also got these kind of organizations you're talking to right now.
Yeah.
I mean, you can get that stuff out. We can pass that along to the rest of our base.
Which we appreciate, let me tell you. We really do. And I say, the most important news network now is the YOU. It is you and your circle of friends. And we all need help from social media and help from people to get the message out there, because
Well,
you know, we're working hard on this. We trying to get the border secure.
But what are you doing
The
in that
administration
regard for the border? I mean, it can't be amnesty. It can't be
That's right.
immigration reform. There is no immigration. They're all illegals. You know, everybody says they're...
The status quo is amnesty, because they come here, they get these deferred hearings, and what we want to do is, what we voted to do was put the troops, the National Guard on the border, repatriate the children to their home countries, have them go home. That's the compassionate thing to do, because you've got all these cartels that are bringing these children over here and trafficking them.
Well, that's the real enemy. That's the real threat. Why don't we go after them? Go down to all of the other countries, down to South American countries, south of Mexico, and say, look, we'll help you out. We'll get rid of these guys for you. Why don't we do that? We should be able to do that within our national.
I just like a DMZ on the
They
southern
are-
border. I'd be happy with a DMZ on the southern border personally.
This is one of the reasons for putting the money in there to repatriate these children, so that they go back home and taking that foreign aid money and helping these countries fight these cartels down there.
Yeah, but when?
So that now,
That's
if the
good.
Senate would take it up, see, this is what the House has voted. The Senate's not taking it up.
We can't have these kids come into our schools. They're going to infect. I mean, it's not everybody, but is there enough of them to infect our kids coming out of school? They'll bring home those things that we've already eradicated.
Right. Well,
Isn't that a concern of everybody? I mean, that just shouldn't be
I've
just
met
the
with, of course it's a
conservatives. That should be the Democrats should be concerned about that as
And
well.
I've met with lots of school teachers and school teacher groups, and they're all very concerned about this. You can't verify the age, you can't verify their attainment, educational attainment levels. So it's something that is of tremendous concern.
Can I
That's
leave
why we
this-
passed the bill.
I'll leave this with you. You may have heard of the Holy Land Foundation trial in 2007, 2008. It was the largest terror financing trial in the history of our country. And the
The
FBI...
largest what for the rest of it?
The largest terror financing trial.
Terror finance trial,
Yeah,
yes, okay.
It was basically, they were an Islamic charity, but they were funneling money to terrorists. It involved CARE, Muslim Brotherhood. Matter of fact, some of the people that Obama appointed to the DHS have links to and worked directly with some of the people who were involved in that trial. Some of them convicted, others were unindicted co-conspirators. But that lays out their plan, and if you look, there's 27 or 29 different organizations that they work through. One is the Islamic Council of North America or something
CARE.
like that.
Right.
No, that's a different one.
Oh.
One of those guys was appointed by Obama to DHS. So you got all these front groups. This is just something from the ACLJ that kind of lays out, it's a little short booklet that kind of lays out how they work. And then this is on Sharia compliant finance, which we are up to our neck in. We have a lot of American companies that see no problem
Yeah.
with being part of that. And so that's a real concern. Are you aware of the compound out here in Dover? Okay, I will send you a brief. And it says law enforcement only, restricted, but I found it on the internet. But I'm going to send it to you, and it tells you about this compound out here. Now, I will say this. I know that we weren't originally part of your district, but I would have thought somebody would have told you by now what you had about this compound over here, so you would have known something about it. But anyway, that's...
Nobody's mentioned.
It's about 15 miles
Yeah,
from
I will email
Tell
it
me
to
about
you.
it.
Well, A guy named Sheikh Jelani, who's originally Pakistani, started a group. It's called Jamaat al-Fukra. It's also called Muslims of America. They got a headquarters in New York. They got places in Virginia, Georgia. Just recently, they exposed a big camp down in Texas. Louis Gohmert is following that, and he can give you a lot more details. They actually have been in the country 25 or 30 years. They've been in this county about 20 years. Mostly ex-con African Americans primarily. They live in little settlements, fenced off, trailers. We haven't had, I don't think they've actually been any arrests or anything out here, but the suspicion from what I've read lately is that they think they are probably funneling money, doing things to raise money. And they may also be like a halfway house or whatever, a hideout or whatever. But basically what they do is they're throughout the country, and their goal, their ideology is purification of Islam. So anybody that is not adhering, they try to, and they actually were on the terror list until 2000. There's a case, and if I can find it, I'll send it to you. It started out in Colorado, mid to late 80s, where the police force actually uncovered a lot of what they were doing, and the FBI didn't want to touch it. They just told them, go ahead and take care of it in-house. But if you've listened to Fox News, you've heard about these different encampments across the country. That's one of them.
We have some photos we'll send you.
Yeah, and they have a guy that's in that compound. He's retired from Metro Police Force, and he works with a Muslim Brotherhood front group in Nashville called AMAC. So that's the problem is, I mean, Jelani is recognized as a terrorist, and he has started these little cells all over the country. And like I say, we haven't had some of the issues here that they have had in New York, Texas, and I want to say Virginia. They've had more confrontations. I'm not aware, per se, of confrontations here, but if you look at the players and if you look how they're linked to other people, it's definitely something we consider.
As a minister, I've ministered to that group quite a bit, trying to lead them to Christ as well. And one of my concerns is the men keeps disappearing for long periods of time. You may go out there and all these women and children for a long period of time, and there's several men, and there's people that I've met that leadership that come from, I think, Chicago down here regular for some training. People don't seem to be, I've been out there, I've been in the compound, I've knocked on the doors, I've ministered to them. They don't seem to be dangerous, but what concerns me is when you follow the traits, who's funding them? You can tell a lot by who's funding them. It's just like you can tell a lot about people by who's supporting financially. And David is correct that there's terrorist funding of people's known in that area. And but it's really a mystery what really is going on, because therefore there may be several men there at one time, and the next time there may be months, and really they've left to themselves and had almost starvation at times. I mean, I don't mind the people. I think the best way to change the world is one person at a time.
Yeah.
But I think it's sometimes they seem to think, well, people just radical, seeing things not there. There's something going on. It's just surprising how many men in there, then there's no men, and then there's just women and children, and I've never felt threatened by the group.
How many are we talking about
Well,
as numbers?
Varies.
20 to 50 to 60, somewhere in that neighborhood.
Okay.
But it varies. Like for instance, if I went out there today, there may be just women and children. And then you may go back again, there's a lot of men, but the men comes and goes, and I'm just, and I just wonder what's going on. And I've met some of those people that comes down occasionally. I don't know, check on them, to train them or what. But, you know, but it doesn't seem like nobody except maybe a few people is concerned. And I don't want to mistreat it, but I do think that they're worthy of watching. I've asked some police officials, sheriffs, and they say, well, there's nothing we can do, and, you know, until we see. And as far as I know, they seem to be pretty law-abiding, you know. I know when my kids played basketball in high school, we went out there and I carried those kids home a lot of times when they go to the public school. But really, when you trace where their funding has come from,
Yeah.
that concerns me. Do I think these people are dangerous? No, but I think possibly they're old. They're responsible to somebody in it the day or came, they could become dangerous.
Very close to the TVA, and they're right by the power lines, and the TVA is not far. And by the way, I've talked to other people who work at the TVA, and a guy told me a couple of years ago who does security for the TVA. They're very concerned because the security people they have allocated, they have huge area to cover, and they don't feel like they have good coverage. So that's
One of the main lines runs right through the property that they're on.
Got it.
And I did do some digging online, and if you see the place, it's just a trailer park essentially. And one of the businesses, there were a few different businesses that I found listed there, and I'm assuming online businesses because I don't know anybody that actually does that. But one of them claimed to have made $500,000 one year. Now, so I don't know if they were lying to embellish their sales, or okay, if a little home business made $500,000 in that place, I wonder where that 500. It seems to me like maybe that's something's being
Right.
used for other means.
Yeah, you know, a lot of the work that we've done on the counterfeit merchandise that is sold on the streets, some of those organizations, and you mentioned something from ACLJ,
Yeah.
and you know, they're headquartered in Franklin.
Yeah. I knew they had an office here. I didn't know they were actually
Yeah.
okay.
So, anyway, they've done some work in that, but we're very concerned about some of these nonprofits that are linked to some of this selling stuff out on the streets, you know, the counterfeit merchandise, fake CDs, fake handbags.
And that really concerns me, because being as a minister, the IRS is coming down on tax-exempt organizations. And I'm not saying that some don't need to be coming down on, but I believe they're targeted, you know, and intentional.
Yeah,
Of course, I think we'll do away with the IRS, but I think we'll function the first 100
Yeah.
years without them. You know.
I'm with you.
And,
Flat tax,
and,
nice,
yeah,
easy,
that would
yeah.
solve the problem.
Right.
If you make money, you pay taxes. But it really, that does concern me, that it's so easy. I know with some tax, I cover churches in 9 counties, we have several nonprofit organizations such as churches. It's almost take the law of Congress to get a 501c3
Right,
approved anymore.
yeah.
And then I see these other organizations that fly by night things that
Just
very
get them all the
questionable.
time.
Yes,
Yeah.
very questionable.
Yeah, and you know, this administration has been so difficult on conservative organizations and churches, and I've talked to a lot of churches, and you know, they're just very unhappy with the treatment that they have received, or things that have been questioned, and you know, they spend all their time
You gotta be
doing
very
compliance.
careful if you apply for grants or things
Right,
to help people.
Right.
You know, true 501c3 administrators, because if you use certain words, they'll be disapproved
Yeah.
automatically, or red flags.
yeah,
I mean, it's,
yeah,
but I appreciate anything you do to help in those areas, because I do believe that the reason we're in the mess again is that apathy, people just stop caring.
yeah, you know, and this is one of the things, I don't know if y'all ever follow any of the Family Research Council and some of their things, and Tony Perkins has been great on this issue, and I think the stat is that only half of the church-going public is registered to vote, only half. And out of that, only half votes. So I hope that y'all will work on voter registration this year, because it's
Are
definitely.
we talking about all churches across the board?
Yes.
Or Protestants?
And they're not voting?
They're not voting.
Christian.
Evangelicals, people that say, you know, they're evangelical. You've got about half of them that are,
We could change America if we could just wake up a sleeping giant, I call it. And really, and I feel like Republican nor Democrat really is concerned about what the church believes in our day and age. I believe that, I hope I'm wrong, but I think the Republicans are afraid they'll never win another election unless they separate themselves from people who are anti-abortion, anti-gay. And I'm not for abuse of gays, but, you know, the marriage amendment, and things of this nature, and I think it's such a small majority. If we could just get the dynamics of how they organize,
yeah.
but they've got everybody convinced that everybody in the world is gay.
Well, speaking will gets the law, and they keep, they make the most noise, so they get the most.
Well, I think that it's so important that people that go to church get registered, and then that they get to the polls and vote. And you look at what transpired in the 2012 election. If we had people that were churchgoers that were motivated and got there, you know,
It would have made a difference.
that would have made a difference. And
But to be honest,
The-
recently, as far as the presidential election, there's not really been anyone that really has got the evangelical group fired up. I mean, you know, so they tell us one thing and they do another. Always look at voter history. That tells me more than what they're saying. And really, we've not had candidates that really got people fired up. But yet,
well,
but
see,
yet
I
sometimes-
think that people ought to get fired up themselves over
Yes.
faith, family, freedom,
That's good.
hope, and opportunity. Those
Amen.
5 things.
They've got
And
their
just
heads
preserving
firmly
it.
implanted in the sand. They don't listen.
You know, firmly preserving those things, preserving freedom, securing
Yes.
freedom. That's where they really ought to get excited about that. I think one of the biggest things that's facing us right now is the loss of the American dream. Most
Yes.
people think, you know, that their kids aren't going to have it as good as they have had it. And they feel like that the country is growing weaker. A lot of it is because we don't secure our borders. A lot of it is because of the incredible amount of debt that we carry, and people don't see how we're going to work our way.
But it's easier to
through
get
this.
government benefits now than it is
Right.
to work. There's 4 people used to be homeless, lives 3-4 miles from here. 3 to 4 moved here from Barstow because they were paying the willing to just take them off the streets. You know, first of all, they're 3rd, 4th generation of welfare recipients. But I work at one occasionally around the house, do yard work, do landscaping, and they will work. It's just a matter of, you know, if we can invest more money in, you know, when they're young, to get them to work. But what's going to happen to them is eventually they're all going to be on disability and on government for the rest of their life, and they're almost afraid to get a job because what little benefits they get would be just.
Well, and you know, they talk about the economy and how stagnant it is. The best economic stimulus there ever is a job.
Yes.
And getting people into a job and happy and productive and working and, you know.
And I really believe there's 3 small businesses here in town where there's good people that run them. They said if there was less regulation, and Obama has not helped it, it's hurt, they would double their output now.
Yeah.
But because of the regulations and things of this nature, they can't afford it. A guy was in the office yesterday talking about how he cut his workers. Oh, now, you know, there's certain benefits and things you got to apply. So instead of expanding, he cut half his workforce because he said just you know, it's not economical without raising the price for us. Sometimes I think they think, all you gotta do is raise the price. It's just like in this small business, you can price yourself out of the market. If you came here and a bacon biscuits cost $10, you're probably not gonna come back, you know?
Right. Well,
Isn't-
there is this little formula that I use called less regulation plus less litigation plus less taxation equals more innovation and job creation. And, you know, it works every single time.
How
Every
about
single
tariffs
time. Tariffs?
on China? Why
Well-
does China have most favored
Tariffs.
trading partner status in the United States? I remember being shot at in Vietnam to fight China.
Yeah.
Biggest communist country in the world. Now all of a sudden they're our best friend. And all of our industry has left this country. You don't have jobs for kids to come out of high school and work on an assembly line.
Yeah.
They're gone.
Well,
Manufacturing's
and see,
gone.
this is why we want to bring those jobs back.
Well, that's how
And
you
keep
do it.
trying to, you know, look at the EPA, like you're talking about with the small business. What we hear from people, the Obamacare and the impact of Obamacare is making it to the point that the benefits cost are so much that people can't afford. All these factories that were around about out here, the EPA is what is causing a lot of our factories to not be able to increase production, you know, like the tool and die pressing, working in plastics, tires, automotives, you know, we've got Hankook that's going in over in Clarksville, but EPA makes it so tough
Who
on,
controls EPA?
well, it's,
That's rhetorical.
it's, you know,
Who
the
controls
federal
EPA?
government.
Right. Congress controls EPA. Cut off
Well,
their
that
funding.
is why we've got, you need to be on my newsletter so you'll know what I'm doing. You're upset about things and you don't know what all I'm doing about them.
It might be
The
you
fight
doing-
I'm helping to lead here.
Yeah.
You might be
There's
doing things
actually
about
a
them, but the rest
bill.
of Congress is not.
Well, but the thing is, I can, my job is to represent you, and my job is to vote in a manner that represents what my district wants, and to work on those issues and push them forward, and to work with my colleagues so that they understand why we need to do this. And our committee, Energy and Commerce, has jurisdiction over the EPA, and this is why we pull them in all the time. And it's also why I've had a bill, the CHOP Act, that would force the Department of Energy and the EPA to combine into one agency. And not only would it save about $5 billion a year, but it would also cut a lot of the regulation that is facing our small businesses in half. Now, Senator Byrd has had the companion bill over in the Senate, and we're just going to continue pushing it. Hopefully, we'll have Republicans take the Senate in November, and then we'll be able to pass some things like this and put them to the president's desk. Because you're exactly right. When Bill Clinton elevated the EPA and gave it cabinet level status, it has just, you know, and see, the thing is, these agencies don't do cost benefit analysis. And I've asked them when they would come to committee, do you do cost benefit analysis? And we've had the EPA director say, no, you know, we're focused on the outcome. And so they don't take the time to realize what it's going to cost.
Why even keep the Department of Energy? Because I'm not aware that the Department of Energy has actually created any energy since it came
Oh,
about
they
in the
haven't.
70s. So why even combine them? Do away with, here's the problem I have. We have yet to stop since the GOP took the House, we have yet to defund anything but the military. That's the only thing we defunded, okay? And I cannot believe, especially after 2010, that we didn't have enough people in leadership that were competent enough to lay out a plan and sell it to the American people. I mean, you know, you talk about the media's not your friend. Well, the media wasn't Reagan's friend either.
That's
Okay?
right.
And he still got some things accomplished. All we seem to get accomplished is get that surrender flag ready. That seems to be the only thing we accomplished. And, 2010, we took the House. By the fall of 2011, everybody in Tennessee that I'm aware of, if I'm wrong, correct me, I think Scott DeJarlais was the only one that voted not to raise the debt ceiling. So how can we complain about debt, yet we voted to extend the president's credit card? We can't do that. We have to make the case, show what's coming in, and show what we're going to fund. How do we keep getting caught? We know how these guys operate. And why do we not have a plan to lay out and start beating the drum months out? Why is it like Lucy and